Uh, it says we're live, Alexei.
It says live.
Should I check the YouTube side to see if it's real? Oh, there's a delay though, right? Yeah.
I don't know. I believe it. I think it's probably okay.
Now I'm such a noob at production. I had to go mute the YouTube side because I'm looking at both sides here.
Nice.
Well, I'm excited, and I love Lou, but for some reason I'm more excited about this interview. Tell me, I was nervous to interview Lou, but I'm excited to interview you. Okay, because Lou is I love Lou. Okay, he and I could be brothers. Okay, I mean seriously, but I really wanted to get into the science of, and when I saw your video, I was like, oh my God, you know what you do? What Alexei does? He takes all this. What was the movement? What did they call the movement that it was sort of the conscious movement? What was the big, back in the 70s? Anyway, you take all of that sort of touchy-feely stuff and put it into and make it scientific, right? So anyway,
my best.
I'm gonna stop talking. I want you to introduce yourself if you don't mind. Just give.
Okay. Well, I guess my name's Alexei Novitzky, and as far as my background, lifetime practitioner of meditation. I've been learning in my dreams since the age of 5. Very first time I woke up from very first time I rode a bicycle, I woke up from a dream, and I went straight to my brother and said, "Hey, I know how to ride a bike." He said, "Show me." And so he took the training wheels off my tricycle, and then I rode around by myself, But basically, since then, I've been very interested, you could say, in stuff like telekinesis, clairvoyance, levitation. And so you could say I started studying all of that at a very young age. And then for college, I received my undergraduate degrees in astrophysics, physics, planetary science, astronomy, with a minor in geology and also a master's in mechanical engineering. And so,
geology. Ooh.
Yeah, it just happened to fit in one more class and I would get the geology degree, right? But my goal has always been to use what we understand as far as our methods of physics and to explain stuff such as telekinesis, clairvoyance. And through the explanation of that comes the potential explanation of UAPs as well as interdimensional technologies. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to share some of your video if it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't know. Can you see how I've got it there? Because really, I was trying to figure out how you could actually, because I wanted to play a little bit and then talk a little bit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Kind of go along. And because I don't know, there's a lot there, there's a lot here, and I wanted to just kind of when you think there's a good point, I'm just going to play like maybe a 30 seconds or 45 seconds, and then when we come to a point that either I or you think is a good idea, just go, hey, I like that, I want to talk about that, and we'll stop it. And
that sounds good.
If that's okay. And now tell me if you can hear it.
My name's Alexei Novitzky, and I'd like to introduce you guys to the physics. I can hear it okay. Dimensional telescope that I've designed. So here we go. The very first thing we do is, I could explain this real quick if you want me to. Or
okay.
Structure of the
I'll just phrase it right there. And also, that's a good point too. If someone in the chat on YouTube can let me know that you can hear the audio from the YouTube's the video, I appreciate it. Thanks. Go ahead, Alexa.
Yeah, well, basically, this would be a general model of what you could consider as the greater cosmos. We live in a solar system, right? That's around a black hole, the galactic center, and then we have the entire universe. But what I'm saying here is, with this model, is that our entire universe is orbiting a greater structure with an acceleration towards center, and that the habitable zone of conscious perception, meaning the places where humans can physically perceive matter, are related to distances associated with acceleration towards center at light speed, right? So it's like on Earth, we accelerate towards the center of the Earth at 9.8 meters per second. What I'm saying is that we can perceive matter when we accelerate at the speed of light. So that's basically what this model is showing us.
So you're saying that obviously the original thinking was that we could not approach the speed of light because it would take infinite, lots of energy. But you're saying that that's not true.
Well, what I'm saying is that the speed of light is more of a limitation of human perception rather than a limitation of reality, and that the entire concept of an expanding universe is more of a expanding perception that's based on off a Doppler shift related to acceleration towards center at light speed. So basically, everything becomes magnified as you orbit the center, and essentially, as you approach a spot into the future, everything between you and the center would look like matter, and everything on the outside would look like light. It's almost like grabbing a tennis ball and swinging it around really fast. Half of everything's getting crunched towards you, and half of everything's being stretched away. And so you could say that reality is being stretched into perception. Perception is being stretched, as we
obviously, I'm a design build contractor, and some of this is going to go over my head. But when I first saw your video, something resonated with me, and it was because I've had experiences in the past, and I think there's something happening with certain people who had experiences where things resonate with them, but they don't necessarily know why.
Right.
Like when I saw this, I said, I have to contact Alexei and I have to interview him.
Well,
it was like that. It was like, what's his name in Encounters of the Third Kind, who had to go to the mountain, who kept obsessing over the mountain or whatever. I don't remember exactly.
That in itself could be the general construct of the UAPs themselves, them giving you that urging to want to do something, or that could just be, in a sense, the greatest sense that humans have, which is the sense of synchronization, right? So maybe you just knew that us talking would synchronize properly, right? And so it's that seventh sense, you could say, or sixth sense, which is the sense of synchronicity.
There's one part of this that's really, oops, I can't push the play button there. I have to push it over here. Here we go. Did I just take it off the screen? I'm sorry. Hold on.
I see. It's still in the center for me.
Okay, good. Yep. It's not showing on the YouTube side. Is his video showing on the YouTube side, guys? I'm going to add it back now. All right, so I'm going to turn it back on.
Cosmos. And the important takeaways from this diagram here is that what we have here is the moment the universe collided with time. And we also have habitable rings of conscious experience within time. So we'll break that down a little bit. But so here's the moment when the universe first collided with time. And you can see that it kind of separated like a prism into conscious experiences. Now, I'm not saying this is actually red and that's actually purple. I'm saying these.
Okay, so I have to ask a question about this, okay? Can you hear me, Alexei?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
I'm sorry. Again, the new producer here. So our concept of time, this idea of the universe colliding with time. I think when I think of time, I think of it as just a perception or a something that we create. This would insinuate that it's a physical thing.
Well, time can be considered a relative aspect of existence. For example, it depends on your relative. So in this sense, what I'm saying physically is that time is a field of energy. And as far as how we normally perceive time, it's related to, you could say, velocity and then also lifespan, right? So humans have a different perception of time compared to a bug. So we all perceive time at different rates, but then the actual flow of time, meaning the motion of matter, is dependent on how fast you're going through that fluid. It's the relative motions of yourself compared to the fluid itself. And so when you have this structure of energy, you could say that is the raw energy of time. And then based on your motion is how you experience this energy.
This is sort of a sidetrack, but I've always been on the bus or in the school of thought that you couldn't actually travel to the past, and that events are not stored in some big database in the sky that you can access, that we live in the here and now. How does that kind of thinking play into, you know what I mean?
Well, this basically shows that an event basically always kind of exists in the same spot in the crystal itself, and that it really just depends on your velocity and direction, basically how your velocity and your acceleration is going through that spot. So that spot always exists, but you might have a different direction or approach towards it.
I thought our reality was constantly changing, and
we live in a 4D environment, and that 4D is a result of motion through a 5D. What I call a crystal, right? So it would be motion through a 5D crystal would create our 4D experience, which has past, present, and future. But if you step out and you look at that from above, you see it's all still there, kind of at the same time, at the same moment. It's all there, it's all one, and it's all happening simultaneously.
How do I get so many different philosophies running around? You know what I mean? Like, there's some people who obviously do not believe that you could travel, especially back in time, and that there is only the now, right? And that your reality is here and now, and that it's gone. Those moments are gone, and as the moments come and go, you're creating a new reality in each moment, right? But you can't go back to those moments.
Well, so that's where that's more of like a 4-dimensional view, you could say. In our perception, there's only now, but even the now itself is broken down to as infinitely close from the past and infinitely close to the future as possible. Like literally, our perception of now is 1/2 past plus 1/2 future, and the only way you can actually ever see the now moment is if you see the bigger picture of reality, which is everything at once. So the real now exists in the greater Om. So in this picture, in order to see all of now, you would need to be in that giant red ring, because the closer you get to those little purple rings, right, of what we would consider the now moment, you wouldn't actually be seeing all of now. You would just be seeing a little fractal of past and future.
Let me play some more, because that was just my little rant. So we'll go on to more important things.
These are different harmonics of conscious experience. The red would relate to delta. The purple would relate to your fast gamma. Inside here would be past human perception, which would almost be like the ultraviolet of conscious experience. And you could say that here would be like the infrared of conscious experience, right? I call this the lower verse, and I call this the noviverse. That's the spectrum of conscious experience. And so what we notice from the crystal of time is that you have these habitable zones that end up coming into play. And I'll show you how those come about. But basically you have, these relate to the thickness of your experience. So how much of the manifesting matter you can actually experience. And a good way to look at that is what to say event field density, right? So
did you want to, I mean, I don't mind you doing some of this live, right? If you want
to. Yeah, I mean, just to explain this, basically the closer you are to the center, the denser reality would be. You could think of the universe as a glob of energy falling into a black hole. And when it first fell into this structure of energy, it wasn't very dense, right? The universe hadn't existed inside this black hole to where it's orbited many times and overlapped upon itself and gotten closer and closer to the center. And so the first experiences are very, very big, long wave experiences. And then the longer a glob of energy exists within a black hole in 4D space-time, basically the thicknesses add up, right? It becomes thicker and thicker and thicker, and experience becomes thicker. And so
the habitable zones are not like where planets evolve or revolve around stars. They are, is that sort of related, or to, you know what I mean?
Each one would be related to our current position. So basically the habitable, as the universe, as our experience of the universe drifts towards the center of time, there would be, so just imagine now, like we're in one let me see. Instead of having a spiral of drifting inwardness, right, representing all of time, we have the now moment ring of perception, meaning our beta waking consciousness of perception. Based off of that, you would have overlapping energies. So basically energies, you know how like waves in an ocean, you see waves going through the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
Consider this waves of experience going through the fluid of time. And they're all related to our position. And so as our experience drifts inward, all these habitable zones would also exist and be drifting inwards and outwards. That's kind of the easiest way to put it.
Let me go ahead a little bit because there's a graph that you show that I really like.
Center of time, the thicker the experience is. So out here by the red lines, you wouldn't be experiencing too much of manifesting reality. The closer you are to the center, the more reality you can experience. And so one of the first things we did when we started working on this was figure out the size of human consciousness, the sphere of conscious perception. And so what we did was we got the speed of light and we multiplied that by the conscious snapshot, which we said was 60 times a second, right? So you have the speed of light times the conscious snapshot. That gives you a radius. From the radius, you can get a diameter.
I kind of want you to do this live.
Diameter.
Because
from a
I had a question.
diameter,
I'm going to try to get your arm out of the way, and then you can. There we go.
Yeah. Well, so basically, this is more of what is. If we were to say, how far can we actually see into space? I know we can see stars that are at the edge of the universe, right? But how far can we actually see? Like our brain takes, when we watch TV, our brain's taking a picture every, 25 times in a second, or 60 times in a second. So how far are you actually seeing into space, right? And so from that, when it comes to your creation being an overlapping of electromagnetic energy, in relationship to how far can you see into space, it's like how big is the biggest wave of your manifestation and creation in a way, like, because in order to see something, it needs to almost be like a standing wave. And so then you can say that, well, this is our sphere of creation. From that, you could say the longest wave in our creation would be a certain length. And so I just kind of got a good number. I said 60 times in a second is how often we're taking a picture of reality. And then I said that, if you multiply that by the speed of light, that's the biggest standing wave that exists within our reality.
There's something interesting in here. Let me go ahead a little bit, and it's related to, there seems to be a conflict to me in the size of the universe based on your theory here. Let me let it play just for a minute or 30 seconds.
And theoretically, the diameter of the sphere becomes the longest standing wave your consciousness can perceive. So that longest standing wave ended up being 1 times 10 to the 7 meters. That is our longest wave of influence or perception. And what we also notice in the liquid light state universe is that there is a relationship between our relative frame of motion and that of the universe that allows us to perceive the manifesting matter that we are experiencing. So basically, the universe has its local light state of rotation. Your consciousness also has its, you could say, state of rotation. And so the important thing is that those two states harmonize with each other, right? If they're not harmonized with each other, you won't experience manifesting reality. And so the one way that we're able to harmonize with the universe is if we are accelerating towards the center of time at the speed of light. And so this right here shows the crunching of light in the conscious now. This is your longest wavelength perceivable.
So I really kind of wish you were directing this because I have all these questions. And at what point do we get to, and I have this conflict where I want to do this live, but I want to show the video too. Have you ever had this conflict?
Well, if you mute the video, I can just talk about the slides.
That's an excellent idea. Thank you.
Yep.
That's why you're here, because you're a smart guy. Let's see. If I mute it there, tell me if I start it.
Yeah, that works right there.
Okay, great. This is perfect. Now you can
Yep.
just tell me when to pause when you have a
Well,
thought.
yeah, I mean, so I can just explain this real quick. This has like basically what we were just talking about. After our universe collided with the glob of energy that was time, the field of time, you could say it's just like a glob of energy falling into a black hole, right? It slowly and slowly drifts inward as it expands or as our perception stretches. The greatest challenge here is relating our 4D perception of space-time to a fifth dimension, right? So we're talking in 4D terms, but we're also looking at a fifth dimensional view. And so it's just challenging.
This was the chart I found fascinating. I don't know why.
Okay.
I think it's because I have this feeling that whenever I sleep, I have different types of modes that I go into when I sleep.
Yep.
And like I have regular dreams, and then I have these crazy, wild, like real dreams. And I feel like that those are on different frequency. Like when my brain's operating at one frequency, I have normal dreams. And when it's operating on this other one, it's like, okay, this is, you know what I mean? This is a special, special frequency.
Definitely. Well, that's what I basically what I say in this theory is that each one of your conscious harmonics is related to a different flow of space. You can consider like an antenna, and that it's receiving different flows of space. So earlier, the last slide, we said that the flow of space, needs to harmonize with the flow of your consciousness. So there's different flows of space that harmonize with different harmonics of your conscious antenna, right? So you can consider your consciousness like an antenna that picks up on certain wavelengths. And I have it in a book. Let me go grab it. It's a book I just got in. It's called The Fifth Dimension, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about.
I want to just play through a little bit, so we'll be at a different point when you come back.
Well, so basically,
Oh, this was a good part. You were explaining the frequencies and the harmonic, the difference between the frequencies.
Yeah, so it's all basically right here.
Yeah. Okay.
You can see that each one of your conscious harmonics is related to a different ring. So your delta wave goes off at 1 hertz per second, essentially, 1 to 3 hertz. And then your theta has a different range, your alpha has a range. They're all on the chart there. And if you wanted to consider the habitable zones of perception, which are related to that glob of energy falling into the black hole, they need to orbit once a second for a delta wave. A theta wave would orbit 4 to 8 times a second. A beta wave would orbit 14 to 30 times a second. And so you can see the average clouds we did there. So all those are the average numbers. What it really is a spiral of all the numbers, right? But those are just the average numbers that relate to the thicknesses of experience.
At what point did at one point I got a little confused at where there seemed to be a conflict between what science thinks the known, and this may be just a matter of scale, right? I mean, we assume that we're the the Earth is 4.5 billion, but what is the universe? 13 point, almost 14 billion.
When I went to college, the universe was 18 billion years old.
Okay.
And now they're saying, I think 14.5 billion.
Yeah, I was thinking somewhere around 14. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in other words, when I was listening to your video, doing this kind of math in my head and listening to you, I'm thinking, well, that's larger than what we think the universe is. Right? I mean,
they have like the speed of light, times the age of the universe. I don't know any of that stuff. What I'm saying basically though is that the universe is being stretched into existence, as we actually orbit, and that's related to the Doppler shift. But as far just to talk about what you were talking about, I think they say that the universe is like 18 billion years old. However, it's 60 billion light years across. Is that what you're talking about there?
That's where I was getting since I'm a carpenter. That was the conflict in my head. The math that you're
If you
using
have,
seemed to insinuate that the universe was actually a lot larger than what we thought it.
well, it's that it's more of like a balloon inflating is one way to see it. So it's accelerating outwards, but then it's also inflating from inside. So you have the length that it ultimately travels in both directions is bigger than because it shoots out at the speed of light, but at the same time it's inflating. So it gets bigger. I'm pretty sure that's how they describe it.
I can't remember if is the expansion at the speed of light or is it at a slower rate. I can't remember what.
I believe it's the speed of light.
That's what I thought it was, but I know like our galaxy is not traveling that fast, right? So we're lagging behind. Our galaxy is like the Milky Way is not traveling at the speed of light, right?
Well, it'd be like relative to what, right?
Right. I guess you get into relativity at that point.
That's exactly the whole thing, is that everything is, as far as perception, it's all about relative motions. And so every point in the universe, it's expanding. So what they say right now is from every point in the universe, you look like you're in the center of the universe. And so that's really throwing people off, right? Because the universe is expanding away at the speed of light. Well, hey,
that's why Galileo got in trouble, right?
Right. So maybe the sun doesn't go around the Earth goes around the sun. Maybe the universe isn't expanding at the speed of light. We're accelerating towards center at the speed of light, right? So that's where everything's kind of backwards at this point, if that is the case, Yep.
So I have to ask, I forgot to ask you, the title of your video is here's your answer. I don't remember what point you were trying to make to Lou exactly.
Well, what I was trying to make, the point that I'm actually trying to make is based off of this theory, we can build an interdimensional telescope that we can now peer into the different layers of conscious perception. Meaning with this technology, we can just build a window to look into the different layers. So it's a step, is all I'm saying. Here's an answer. An interdimensional telescope, we can now look through the different layers of conscious perception, the different habitable zones of experience within time. So,
but I'm still a little bit confused about these points in time being, we're seeing light, say we're seeing light from a star, right? Okay. And this is something, again, obviously I shoot nail guns for a living. Okay. If we're viewing a star, it's, say it's 4 light years away. At what point does our telescope intercept the light that we are seeing? And I guess it's based on the focal length of the telescope.
Well, so we have 4D space-time and 5D space-time, right? So in the 4D space-time, it would arrive to us 4 years later. Let me just show you this drawing.
That's kind of my point, though, about time being recorded somehow, because it's a matter of focusing, right? Or it's a matter of
you could say that, right?
If I hone in on one of these frequencies, light's still passing through that frequency, right?
Could you say that one more time?
If I dial into one of these frequencies, light is still passing through that zone, right? It's not stopping there.
Right. It just continues onwards. The way I like to see it is we live in an ocean of liquid light, essentially, and matter forms at peaks of the waves. So I'm literally being created by the same waves of energy that you are. We're all being created by the same waves of energy that the stars are. And the only reason that the Earth looks like matter and the sky above us looks like light is because of our location. And matter is literally being crunched, or the same field of energy is being crunched on one side and stretched on the other side, based on our accelerative reference frame. I have a drawing here that kind of shows that a little better. So if you were to say,
let's see, can you hold it up? Let me see if I can take this down. I'll put us up here. I'll just put you there on the screen. Oops, wrong person.
There you go.
Now you can hold it up to your camera. And
right. So basically, if you consider this a single field of energy, right? Consider that the energy or the fluid of raw time or the raw experience, okay? And now you're accelerating towards center at light speed, but you're in an orbit. Like we orbit the sun, where the entire universe is orbiting a greater sun. And so you would have a Doppler effect based off of that. And that
so if you're spiraling in, you're hitting those wave points at different. So if you're spiraling towards the center and those waves are literally waves, then I wonder how that affects the information.
Well, I call it a crystal, so it's more of a solid structure. And based off of, you could say the harmonization of the individual. So yeah, based off of the harmonization of the matter and the individuals in between is how that crystal moves around. So we're all time atoms within that crystal, and we all have motion within it. But so basically, as you orbit,
is this your book? Which book is this?
This one's called The Fifth Dimension.
And this is your book. Yeah, you've got what, 4 or 5 books?
I have 5 now, and then I've recently just put them all into an anthology, and I included a book of poetry and also a book of philosophical discussion.
I want to give links to those, but remind me before we quit.
Yes, sir. But just this gives you an idea. So you could consider the future being in the bottom. So if we're orbiting downward, right, but our acceleration is towards center, as you approach an object, energy between you and the center is crunched. As you leave the object, it gets stretched away. You have a magnification of perception as you go through it. Literally, reality is being stretched into existence as we're orbiting a greater center, right? And that's based off of the Doppler shift. Yeah.
And the reason you're saying it's being stretched into existence is because we don't perceive it except at a certain frequency.
You were just talking about the stars being 4 light years away.
Yeah.
This is basically showing that the stars are in the fifth dimension of density. You could say the stars are literally inches to miles away. And that the Earth, literally from the center of the Earth to where we stand, is almost the same length as from where we stand to the edge of the universe. So we have half of time being crunched to you and half of it being stretched away. And so when you crunch light above you halfway and you stretch matter below you halfway, that raw energy is a more realistic perception of what the raw energy of time looks like. Would be light half crunched and matter half stretched.
I wanted to kind of throw in some UAP questions along the way, but every time I see something on the video, I want you to explain it.
Right.
So if we're referring to you, I really wanted to kind of get through the whole. I have this conflict here, Alexei. Help me figure this out. I have questions and I don't want to forget them.
No,
it's like I have a note here. Oh, yeah. Here's one of my crazy notes I wrote down for our meeting. At 4:15, what frequency do the other beings operate on?
Well, so that's where we are. Everything is relative to their experience, and we have what we could call the human experience. And in the human experience, the human condition, 1 hertz, the delta wave is 1 hertz, and we're centered around 20 hertz. I have this in the book. So this one's called Time Atom. And it shows the layers of conscious perception in it. And it's not necessarily what range, it's more of a ratio, right? And so the next perceivable flow of space-time, you could say, would be one that's 4 times bigger in diameter. So you can see that in the center we have theta, and there would be 4 theta spheres that would fit perfectly across that delta. And so basically every 4 makes every 4 times bigger, you get another layer that becomes perceivable. And that's based off of human consciousness, which has a relationship of 2 right? So we're basically on off 2, like 2 to the end. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. And so those are basically, that's like the relationship of human consciousness to the perceivable universe. But there could be a being that could have a prime multiplier. Instead of having 2 raised to the end, it could be 3 raised to the n, where their harmonics would go 3, 9, 27, 27 times 3, whatever that is. And then you could have another being that has 5 as the prime multiplier. So 5, 25, 125. But human consciousness goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. And then within each one of those, you could say prime multipliers. There's also the habitable zones of perception based off of the doubling nature. So there's a lot of different layers of reality potentially, where we could actually experience manifesting matter, or beings could have developed consciousness.
So how would they pop in and out of, you hear people say, well, they have these theories that they are interdimensional beings and that they're popping in and out. Is that a possibility in your mind, or
very, very reasonable possibility? Yes, sir. And I think the easiest, the word that everybody could relate to would just to be saying a magnetic vortex could potentially create that 4-to-1 ratio of, 4-to-1 stretching and rotation to where you get that perfect alignment with your consciousness to perceive one of those other layers of manifesting reality.
This part of the video, which I accidentally went through, reminded me of fractals.
Yes, that's the easiest way to explain that. It's kind of like quantum, how you can build waves within themselves.
I don't know if you've ever done this, but when the first time I got my first CAD software, actually was AutoCAD when it first came out, right, 1985 or something. I had my drafting teacher had a student copy of it because, obviously he's a teacher. And I took it home, and the first thing I started doing was trying to draw, I thought, okay, I'm going to see how long I can last drawing fractals and zooming in or out and out. You know what I mean? I'm just going to keep zooming in, and because I used to do these little tricks on my drawings when I worked at an architecture firm. I would draw something and make it a dot on one of the letters. Like I would draw something funny and then shrink it down to where it was the dot on an eye, right?
No, I got you.
It's sort of an inside joke, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, even on our company logo, the eye, the dot that dotted the eye was something that you had to zoom in to see.
Right. I can imagine people zooming in on old files now, just looking through your stuff.
Yeah, it's that little dot right there.
Yeah.
But and this really, I don't know. Did I get past a point to where it and I put a link to this video for anybody that's frustrated the way I can imagine somebody watching this is frustrated with me the way I'm handling this video. But do I go back a little bit, or do you just want to pick it up from here and kind of explain what this is about?
Well, this just basically shows earlier in the book, or in the video I showed, you could say the habitable zones of perception and how each one was related to a thickness of experience. And so if you were to look at this drawing right here, you could say that red sphere is the delta sphere. So the human consciousness has the delta wave, which is 1 hertz. That would be related to that red sphere. And so this is the packing of spheres, just to kind of give an idea of how many bits of information, or like the relative amount of information each thickness of experience would contain. And so if delta has 1 sphere, then for every 1 delta wave, there would be 64 theta waves that would fit inside of that. And so you could say that for every thickness of experience that you go through, there's 64 times the information. That's the easiest way to put that.
At what scale? I remember watching this. I found fascinating. Like, there's an actual scale to this, right? To this,
it's 4-to-1, exactly.
Okay.
the 4-to-1 scale, and that's related to acceleration towards center at light speed with the harmonic resonances doubling, right? If your harmonic resonances weren't doubling, like for example, human consciousness is basically related to the factor of 2 raised to the n. If it was raised to 3 to the n, instead of doubling, it would be basically tripling every time. And so we get 1 rotation of red for every 2 of yellow, being that we're 2 to the n. So because ours goes 1, 2, 4, 8. Yeah.
How does this relate to like just something as simple as telepathy? And this may be off topic, but
So
I'm trying to tie this into
right.
like our subject that we're talking about. How are they communicating?
Yeah, I get that. And I think the easiest way to explain that would be to say that this is the 5th dimensional view. In the 4th dimensional view that you and I share right now, that with past, present, and future, we should look at it more as the liquid light state of the universe, like where everything is overlapping electromagnetism, and there's past, present, and future, and matter manifest at the nodes of overlapping EM. And so when you look at the universe like that, basically you can consider brains or sets of consciousness like guitars, right? And if I'm holding a guitar and there's a guitar sitting in the corner, and I pluck the E string really, really hard, the E string in that guitar in the corner will ring because it's tuned to the same frequency. And so when I have a thought, anyone that has a similar, you could say, framework of quantum consciousness will have the same thought, or it'll have a ringing to it. But that's only if they're sitting quiet, right? Like sitting in the corner quietly. If the guitar in the corner is playing really, really loud, playing rock and roll, then if I play my E string, that guitar is still playing its rock and roll, and it won't vibrate. So in order to actually pick up on other people's harmonics, you need to basically sit really, really still, and then you'll just hear essentially other people's thoughts. Because they're not really their thoughts, they're not really your thoughts. It's more the intelligence that exists within the quantum state.
Okay, start from like 2 sentences ago and say that again.
Not really your thoughts, not really my thoughts. Intelligence exists within the quantum state. So what is consciousness, right?
But you were saying that if say you're in a meditative state, if you're in the proper state, that you might be able to pick up on other thoughts.
Yeah.
That was it. I found that interesting.
Yeah, that's like being a guitar, or consider like, now instead of you're not only a guitar, you're a tuba, you're a flute, you're every instrument that exists, and you're sitting perfectly still. You can feel any vibration that comes in, and you'll know what note it is. And so the more you practice, the more you can understand what's actually happening and whose thoughts, is it your thought that you're picking up on, or is it that guy's thought? Whose insecurity is really at play now? Is it that guy's insecurity? Is it yours? That's because intelligence exists in vibration. The consciousness exists beyond the body. And so it's like the quantum intelligence. And the thing that I've been on a lot lately is so when you saw those orbits of experience, basically there's different flows. So you know about laminar flow versus turbulent flows, and things that are in a state of laminar flow have a better percentage of reaching their destination.
You didn't give me a chance to say no. I don't know. Laminar flows.
Oh, I thought
it sounds like laminate to me. It sounds like plywood.
Well, laminar is just like a smooth flow, really like water coming out of a faucet. And then you could say that turbulent flow would just be a lot of spiraling vortexes, a lot of friction.
Okay.
Not a very good design.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the quantum stillness that exists within you, you could say that your ego is a bunch of turbulent flows in the quantum state. And, letting go of your ego would create a laminar flow. And so when people literally walk up to other people, they're just sending out these quantum turbulent fields of intelligence, essentially. And depending on how attuned you are, you can pick up on those flows. And so that's why I like to say that intelligence exists within stillness, because the more quiet you are and the more still you are, the more you allow that quantum consciousness to actually gain higher harmonics of density. right?
Did you say that you had a UFO UAP experience?
I've had several throughout my lifetime. Yes,
I
sir.
thought I remembered that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to share one of them, or
Well,
are you like me? You're kind of afraid too, a little bit.
well, I mean, I'll share it. I write about it in the book. I might as well be open with it and, stand behind my words, So basically, when I was about 10 years old, in a very, very vivid meditation, you could say, almost as real as, to me, it's as real as watching you now. And it's one of the most vivid memories I have as a child, right? So basically you could say a gray came in what looked like half a nutshell. So I could see like the bottom was like a nutshell, you could say, and you could see the top of the being sitting in it, hands out like this, and shows me what was called the Delusions of Mankind, which had a lot to do with our ideals of success. Basically, how people are taught things like you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to make money, you need to do all these man-made things to be successful, when in reality none of those are all just kind of like man-made things and fractals of fractals of someone else's delusion. So like, say I work for Amazon, I become the best Amazon employee. Well, I've just literally, I haven't achieved my true goal in life. And so it basically showed that like we put the concrete where it is, we put the trees where they are, we create the philosophies we follow, and we create the stresses in our days as well. Right? We create, you could say, the political issues, the dramas. We create all the problems that exist in the world. And it comes down to the perception, right? Like how you're looking at things. Like, are they creating it? Or are we creating it? And humans have literally created every problem we have. We've tamed the wild, we've already put up the walls. I'm not worried about getting eaten by a lion at night. But now the greatest threat is another human. There's a problem with our philosophy. And so that had to do with like the delusions of mankind right there, essentially.
What do you think the UAP thing is all about? I mean, is it just we're somehow crossing paths with, or do you think there's a purpose, or do you think they were here before us, or what's your idea? You know what I mean?
Yep, I think they've always existed within time. Right? Time is a bigger structure than our experience of the universe, which is the human condition. And so when you think about the greater structure of time and the greater cosmos, humans haven't been around very long. Maybe 100,000 years, 200,000 years, I don't know. But so what are they trying to do? I think they're trying to guide us to more of a laminar flow state as opposed to a turbulent flow state. And that relates more to how our energy relates in a 5 or 6 dimensional view. When it comes to turbulence, it doesn't flow to the destination, right? And so like, what are we and what do we do and what is our goal in life? You could say from a 6 dimensional view, we are the fluid of time and we are the creation of other experiences. The quantum stillness that exists within us is what allows the intelligence to grow at the denser harmonics.
Do you think that the tic-tac type objects are occupied by those, or those are just like manifestations of what we expect to see?
Well, I don't want to start relating. So I think a lot of things might be manifestations, but I also do believe that we have our own technologies at this time that can be easily confused as they are interdimensional technologies, and I believe they could be confused as extraterrestrial. But
so you think our technology has gone, and I wonder what have we been doing for 50 years that
we went to the moon in the 70s and we haven't been back since. Come on.
Yeah.
that just
people think I'm crazy when I think we have people on Mars all since the 70s or something.
I wouldn't put it past them, and John, I don't know if you've ever heard John Searle. He's one of the best or the more well-known inventors of, you could say, hush technology, right? He created something called the Searle effect generator when he was probably like 16 or 18 years old, and it ended up levitating and shooting off to space, and he had no idea what the heck just happened, right? And so then he built another one, and he built another one, and eventually they were able to put a frame around it. So his name is John Searle. He has an amazing story on YouTube. It's called the John Searle story, and it was made by Bradley Lockerman and I believe Jim Morse.
How do you pronounce his name? John, or how do you spell his last name?
John, John. and his last name is Searle, Searl. That's where I basically started getting really interested in the magic squares, was from John Searle's work. He has a book titled The Law of the Squares. And that's how he designed his roller system, which eventually made literally flying disc. He flew them around in the 50s. They'd fly around the earth, and he could build, his machines would go to the moon in 10 hours. And it's like, how do people not know about John Searle and his work?
How would he know they would go to the moon in that amount of time?
Just based off of the math and the numbers. And
okay, I see. I thought you meant he had a way to track them. Yeah.
He has flown them around the earth several times. I believe he had 58 different projects or something of that number that flew around the earth. He was privately funded, and the only way they would fund him is if he kept it quiet. So that was a privately funded project, and the one you might want to look up is called the Searle story, the John Searle story. That'll have a good amount of information there.
Is that's on YouTube?
That is on YouTube. Yep.
Okay.
But basically, the people that made that documentary started a company here in Florida called Spintronics, and then also a guy in I believe he's in Texas. His last name's Hernando. He's been trying to recreate the SEG as well. But basically, they're saying that Searle's been busy with the British Air Force and all that stuff, and
how old is he now?
He's about 80-ish at this point. That's
what's kind of scary to me. All these great minds being lost, to time. Kind of like Tesla was. How he sadly just deteriorated.
His files were all taken up by Donald Trump's uncle or something. I mean, I don't even know.
Well, I mean, can you imagine him just sitting in a hotel room, just getting old, and him being ignored? It's just amazing.
Well, not only that, but his vision of what the world could be, and then knowing that his vision will never happen in his lifetime because of, you could say, those like the power and that hunger control system that we have right now, that will never allow people to truly harmonize with their golden spot. And so that relates to, when Lou says, how would people react if they knew the greater truth? And he says they would be somber, right? I believe it's more related to like it has to do with what we think as success and where we think we're going with our successes in life, and what should we truly value. I personally have lived my life by heart, but I've also been seen as like the crazy guy. Like, why aren't you getting that job when they pay 10 times more? Or why aren't you doing that? And it's like, well, because that's my passion. That's where I need to be going. And
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
My son Alex. Okay. I'm just going to tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
He was in Mensa at the age of 4, right? We, as parents, we said, oh, we have to do this. We have to do that. We have to do. The older he got, the more I realized, no, he's a human being. His mom would put him in private school, and he got a scholarship to a private college, and he just left it. He just left it all behind. And now he's as happy as he can be.
Right.
And I look back on those years, and I say to myself, why did I think I should determine the outcome of his life? And the older he got, the more I realized that no pressuring to go to college. So there was this conflict between me and his mother, right? I said, don't pressure him. Just let him. He's smart. He can figure it out, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is people already know, right? And all these things that are put upon everyone only create, like, everyone's been, all the problems, right? You could say the U.S. is going through a number of problems, right? We have political problems. We've got, you could say, race issue problems. All those things are nonsense being taught by like none of that's real. None of that is.
Yeah.
I think that it's the dumbest thing ever. Like, people being caught up on, oh, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. They're so caught up in fractals of delusion and what they need to act certain ways now because there's something, and now they're going to be assumed to be something because of, it's all just a whole bunch of nonsense. I don't know. People are who they are,
Now, this kind of thing ties into so many issues with our social, network as it is. And it's just amazing to me. my mind goes to spinning around when I think about how much easier it would be if we just left our politics or, I don't know.
Definitely. I mean,
I'm going
that's
down
why.
a rabbit hole, but I just and all this, this is the kind of stuff that really drives me nuts as far as people just can't step back and say, wait a minute, is it worth burning down cities? Is it worth, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Well,
Attacking people? Is it really worth all that?
no,
You
at the end of the day, I mean, if you imagine all the money and infrastructure that has been put into the MIC, like the military industrial complex,
Mm-hmm.
imagine if that was put into creating a sustainable environment. Just
Yeah.
trillions of dollars going into
That
creating a sustainable environment.
I noticed one of the comments I got or several comments were pushback against what I was talking about with Lou, and I kind of wanted to clear this up. My goal has always been, uh, I'm writing this book called The Artisan Way. The artist, right? I have always been a conservationist, right? But I haven't mixed that with politics, and I don't think people understand that you can be someone who cares about the earth, but also doesn't care about what political party backs that, right?
Yeah, I know this
I,
might sound bad, but I've never voted for the president once in my life. I really don't care.
well, I'm getting there. Okay, I was a kind of a junkie, a political junkie when I was a teenager, and Ronald Reagan was the first president that I voted for. I was really excited. And I was all
Right.
these years I've been such into it. Well, now I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to hear another political speech. And what I meant by when I asked Lou about his friend, what was his friend's name? That he took part of this big phone home event, which I want to introduce you to Luis Jimenez, who runs that, and I want you to go on his show, okay? And before I forget, and I he was talking about what is the fellow's name? He's the attorney for Lou, or he used to be.
It's
What
not.
is
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
anyway? You see,
Yeah.
you and I don't really care about these names, right? But he was mentioning the fact that we have to get the Green New Deal passed, and I was like, is this about politics? And I said, the Green New Deal is pushing technology that's so outdated. These people don't realize that I was installing these solar panels in the 70s, and they're still basically the same, right? I'm expecting there to be new technology. I mentioned this to Lou kind of
I,
off the air.
I saw a point like that. Yep. It's why would we do that and use the old technology instead of
Yeah,
bringing
why
new
would we spend trillions
technology?
of dollars on
Right.
old batteries, old windmills that are
Yep.
obviously inefficient? Why would we do that when we have this? I know they're holding back energy related technology.
Well,
I
they've got
just
these.
feel it. I can feel it.
Well, I mean, the SEG is a great example of that. The Searle effect generator, the John Searle free energy drive, right? It's basically just a coil of magnets that sits around magnets and just magnets spinning around magnets. It's powered by a magnet that's been, instead of being magnetized with DC, it gets magnetized with AC. And it's split up into 8 segments and stacked in a very particular fashion that just creates an alternating current. It's almost like beats, magnetic
And
beats is the way to think of it.
yeah, and nobody's claiming that it's free, right? It took money
Right.
to make the magnets. It
Of
took
course.
time and
Yep.
energy but efficiency is what we're looking for, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
there's
so
all kinds of.
when you say 0 point energy or free, people go, oh, that's loony. But
Well,
you
that
and I
just means.
both know that there is something there.
Well, yeah, I think that what people need to realize is that that just means gathering energy from the subspace, right? If you just said,
Right,
say, subspace energy or quantum energy, I think people
right.
will be more willing to understand that. But the way I like to call it, gathering energy from the fluid of time. I mean, whatever.
I
It's
think
literally.
unfortunately, people like Lou, who were good at counter intel, did a very good job. Not Lou, okay? I love Lou, okay? I'm talking about that culture of counterintelligence did a
Yep.
really good job of making people seem nutcases if they believed in UAPs, UFOs, whatever. If they believed in these energy sources that we aren't currently using. To this day, you can go to a YouTube video where someone on that, you can go probably one of John Searle's videos and people will be saying, oh, free energy. You know what I mean? Tenfold.
Definitely. And I mean,
You know.
just based on what you're saying, even myself, I never wanted to speak about anything I had seen in the past. Oh, this guy says he's seen a gray before, or he's learns in his dreams, or has all these crazy experiences. I would never talk about it. I would just do things, and then I would show them the results afterwards.
You're still braver than me, because when I was 12, I had an experience, and it made me change. It made me, the next time I went to church, because I grew up in the church, right? The Southern Baptist, I'm in Tennessee, and Southern Baptist Church, you would never say anything. You would never say anything contrary to the King James Bible, right?
Of course.
But ever since that night, rather, I have been on this journey, and when I saw your video, I was like, oh, this is resonating. Like, somehow. I don't know what it is, but I had to contact you,
Well,
just like I had to contact Lou.
What I think is really fascinating is that I wrote the first book in 2014, but I had been stressed about the information since 2012, like really, really, really stressed about the information, just trying to speak to everyone about it every single time I could get a chance, right? But then after literally December 21st, 2012, you could say, I feel like our entire experience was pulled into doubt. Just let me finish for a second here. And so basically, you could say that we paced around for about 8 years, 8.25 years. But then literally 2021, a month before that, I started writing this book, The Liquid Light State Universe. And then on February 21st, 2021, I wrote The Crystal of Time. And I finished it at exactly 2:21 in the morning. Okay. And then I went and I made a quick YouTube video for it, and it ends up being 20 minutes and 21 seconds long. What's extremely fascinating to me is at the end of the day, that all relates to the last book, The Fifth Dimension, where it's literally 2 squared is equal to 1. And I know this might just be even one more step forward, but it's definitely a big synchronicity with the movie The Matrix coming out on 12/22/21. But basically at the end of the day, you see how 2 squared equals 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 squares make 1 vortex. Yeah. So all that came from.
By the way, I'm gonna
experiences as well.
I don't know if it's top secret, the bundle price you have for your books, but I'm gonna definitely get them.
Cool. Yeah, I have the so this is the order. I'll just explain it real quick. Basically, your influence in space. It first talks about the evolution of the human body, right? We got some senses from evolving on Earth, some from evolving around the sun, and then some senses came from evolving in an expanding universe. And then, after that, we take another look at gravity. And then basically we say, if we were to try to cancel gravity based off wave nature, we'd probably end up canceling matter. So we live more in a liquid light state universe. And I think the thing that's most important about the liquid light state universe, and ultimately the UAP phenomenon, is going to end up being the pacing nature associated with wants, don't wants, assumptions, and expectations. Because you can see that every time you have a want, a don't want, assumption, or an expectation, it'll create a shift in your mind body. Like, this is your golden spot where you are happiest and healthiest. That's where you're most creative. That is you being you. And then every outside thought, want, don't want, assumption, expectation literally pulls you away, and it alters a naturally occurring universe. And so then basically you get new nodes of manifestation, and you get basically a spiraling nature inwards.
What would be the frequency of that action or that happening, that event?
So that I feel like has a lot to do with what I call the thought coefficient, the importance of the thought, how much you harmonize with it. That it really is. a quantum interaction, right? So it's the overlapping of my quantum state with the overlapping of your quantum state. And it could be that some thoughts amplify each other, some thoughts dampen each other, some create a push, some create a pull.
Sort of like noise cancellation, I guess.
It's exactly noise cancellation, water cancellation, right? It's liquid light state universe cancellation. It's the same exact effects, but with the light state of the universe, right? People need to a better way of thinking about it is that we live in an ocean of liquid light, and matter is just manifesting at nodes.
So what are we talking about with as far as dark energy? Do you have any ideas on dark matter and dark energy?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a very simple idea, and that's actually in the next book, in the Crystal of Time, where I say that the dark energy and dark matter, you could say, is matter or energy that existed in the fluid of time before our universe collided into it. So as our universe is orbiting the center of all moments, it bumps into dark matter, and then it bounces back and forth, right? And so that's where you see galaxies forming. You see, it's almost like channel walls, right? So the overlapping waves create galaxies. And so it only makes sense that galaxies would form around where walls would be.
What was the name of that project? Was it Janus, or was that the name of the instrument that was used?
Oh, to look into the black holes, or?
Well, it showed the structure. It showed the structure of the universe and how it was sort of a web interconnected, and there were voids. And there's I guess they suspect that dark energy or dark matter is where are the voids, right?
Right. I mean, I almost see it as like a crystalline structure, or like a mineral veins inside of a mountain, or the cardiothoracics, like the blood circulatory system.
When you torture ants and you pour that aluminum down in their
exactly,
and their hole, and it comes out, and it has that cool structure to it.
Right. So
I remember the first time I thought poor ants, but isn't that cool?
You can also do a broom. You can dip a broom in some liquid aluminum. That looks pretty cool.
How do we make this? Because see, I can hear people now. What in the heck are you talking about? If you're not interested in this, how do we tie this? How do we make it a pretty package for people who are just interested? Because you know what's going to happen. People like I didn't hear. I don't think I ever heard the word UAP in your video, the first video that I watched, but I knew it was all related just by hearing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's your ghost, all that stuff you could say is woo. I'm coming from a physics point of view. This stuff exists. I'm not saying it's a UAP. I'm saying this is a real physics. It's not a UAP. It's identified at that point. This is something that comes from this part of reality. This comes from here. The telescope will help us identify these structures. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a better way of putting it.
Is your telescope a physical telescope, or is that a metaphor?
No, it's a physical telescope. We can literally build this telescope and then.
Oh my gosh! I need to watch the video again, because I thought you were using the telescope as kind of a symbol of, focusing your.
No. So there are technologies to help you, zen out, you could say, and astral project and things like that. But I'm talking about one that will allow every single normal waking human to peer through the different layers of experience. Yeah, because you need to tune your conscious antenna to the habitable zones. And if you can't, so what you just described would be tuning your conscious antenna. What I'm talking about is tuning space-time to everyone's existing conscious antenna.
What would be the limits to that as far as as far as focusing or dialing in a particular, you know what I mean?
I wouldn't know the limits there. And from my understanding, there really are no limits in reality, except for the ones we create for ourselves.
But we have to create tools that meet the needs of our physical bodies, right?
Right. So we should maximize nature's flow, and so that's why I recommend that these tools could be created where there's all. So you wouldn't put a hydroelectric generator in the middle of the desert, right? Because there's no there's no river,
not a water
no
tower.
waterfall. So you could put an interdimensional telescope where there's a magnetic vortex. In some places on the Earth, the vortex energy is coming into the Earth. On some places, it's coming out. On places where it's coming out, that would be perfect for appearing into the Noviverse. On places where it's coming in, you could peer into the lower verse, right? So with what I would call a collimator, you could literally just collimate the energy because it's already being somewhat twisted up and spun up. It just needs to be, you could say, laminarized, right? So you just need to make it more fluid. And
I love learning because now I know what laminar. when you use the term, I'm like, oh yeah, I understand exactly.
Right. No, I mean it's important. Laminar versus turbulence.
Those terms are really just that's why I asked, because I thought this seems important.
Yeah.
One thing I remember when I was interviewing Lou that he didn't respond to very well was I was wanting to get down to kind of some nuts and bolts, and I bought this camera that is it's a modified. It only you know how cameras are built to filter out infrared because it's noisy. This one, they took that. So it's basically, I have to have a filter on this camera, a bypass filter, to see viewable light now.
Right.
And but I was disappointed because someone pointed out that this camera will only see, from 700 to 1200 nanometers. And, where people are theorizing that the UAPs some of them are showing up on higher frequency, I forgot. Because
I've heard
infrared goes up to what, 10,000? I forgot the exact scale.
I don't have the numbers off. I would just have to look at it apart, Yeah. No, I mean, I guess what's the question there?
Oh, I know. I was being funny. I was trying to get like top secret information. I was like,
right.
Hey Lou, what's that? This camera will grab 700 to 1200 nanometer light, infrared light, that scale, that broadband. And I was thinking that maybe I'd trick him into saying, no, it's on 1800. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a couple bandwidths away.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And it is kind of funny because I remember in another interview he was mentioning, what the sound waves. He was talking about a tool that would maybe measure
infrasonics, I believe.
Yeah, Thank you. Again, I'm a construction guy, so haven't quite learned all the terminology. I'm going to. I can tell you that. But so I was asking him questions at that time. When I was asking him, I had heard the term, and it was kind of funny because I thought he was going to say, "Oh, this frequency."
Well, that's the thing is what is sound as well, right? So all of these experiences that humans have, right? Sounds, touch, taste, smell, they all come from an interaction through the fluid, one rotation through one fluid. And so what is sound, right? So sound in itself could be the factor that controls density in a way. So sound has a direct relationship to density. That's just an important note. And when it comes to the layers of experience, they're all related to density. And so I think having infrasonics makes sense to some degree. Yeah.
Being a general contractor, design build contractor, I just want someone to tell me the specs. Just that's what I want to. And it's kind of frustrating because I know we don't know. I guess we don't know, but I want to see more for myself, and it's frustrating because I don't think I'm ever going to.
Well, I think
the thing that I saw was not a UAP or anything. It was just a ball of light about the size of a basketball.
An orb, right?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm calling it an orb or not because I could see inside of it, but I couldn't see behind it.
Did it have any type of intelligence behind it or anything like?
No, it happened so quick. So and this is the first time I've told this. Okay, I'm 12 years old. I'm took my bath. I'm getting ready for bed. I'm going in. My brother and I had these bunk beds, and of course my brother was older than me, and he stayed away from home a lot, right? So I would be in there by myself. Well, here comes, I'm almost asleep. Through the window comes this light, this orb-looking thing. I can't really describe it, and I start seeing, television looks all when the old
Like the
television,
static.
yeah, turn it's black and white, and it's
Yep.
the noise.
Yep.
That's what I started. That started fading over my vision, and then that was it. And that was it. That's all. That's all. But every night, everything changed about me. My sleep patterns, the way I dream, like I was describing earlier, the dreams. I have different levels that I can now almost recognize when I'm in them. I'm like, oh, this is a normal dream. Thank you, Jesus, because the wild dreams are where I wake up and I'm just aware that they have been there.
Right.
And that sounds crazy, and I don't really talk about it much because it is kind of crazy, right? But those dreams have to be, I can tell, and I don't know if it's a form of like PTSD or what, I don't want to put myself on that level, because I know
not
people who
a
have had real experience.
I try to.
I know.
I can't analyze dreams at all. But from my understanding, you could say that dreams happen in a different density of experience. So we live in. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but what is it about that state that we're in that allows you to experience those different things? I wonder. I mean, you would think that when you're awake, you're conscious, that your conscious would be more heightened, right?
Right.
But why is my conscious more heightened when I'm in a deeper sleep?
Well, I couldn't answer that. Yeah. I don't really know. What I found very interesting when I was writing the book, The Fifth Dimension, was that what I call the orbits of consciousness through density, right? And so basically, you know how you have the circadian rhythm, you go to sleep, you wake up, you're most awake around noon, right? So basically, if you were to get all of your conscious harmonics and then map it in the fifth dimension, you would see that it does like an orbit like this, where it starts out with a big loop, and then it does.
Which book is this?
This is in the fifth dimension.
Okay, cool. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to put
so basically
have that video reference for later on.
So I wrote this book to help explain the video, right? Because I've known all this. I've had all this information in me in a way.
No, I mean when I'm when I'm looking at the book, I can go back and find out where
Right.
Yeah.
So what I see here though is that basically we have this orbit of consciousness through density, and you could say it consists of a big loop, right? The big delta loop, but then also a tight loop of the alpha and beta. And so when you actually relate that through time and you relate that to experience and what we see, have you ever hung a gyroscope on a string?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it matches perfectly with a gyroscope hanging on a string sideways.
I was going to say it's 90 degrees to the
exactly.
vertical.
It'll do one big loop real nice and slow, and then it'll come in and do a tight loop, and then it comes back out and does a big loop. And so what that shows is that consciousness is basically gyroscopically processing through the fifth dimension of that raw fluid of experience. And so when you're talking about why are some dreams more awake than reality sometimes, I would say that you're tuned better. So here you can see a relationship of consciousness through the fifth dimension of density, right? So you could say that if you're in a delta, maybe your brain works better in theta harmonics is all I'm getting at, or it works better in alpha.
What are the human works? What do we work on? Like from 2 to 14? What is it? Hertz? What is it that the mind? What
One
frequency?
to you mean like on average, it's basically 1 to 80 hertz total. 80 being
Okay, I don't know why I thought it stopped at 14 or so.
well,
Yeah.
14 is like waking state, the alpha.
Okay.
So it would go deltas from like 1 to 3, thetas like 4 to 7 or 8, and then you would say that alpha is from like 9 to 14, and then beta is from 15 to 32. Then you have slow gamma goes to up to about 45 or 50, and then fast gamma up to 80 or something like that, And so that's when you have that near death experience or the out of body experience. People are in fast gamma waves, right? So when it comes to something we can relate to, we have delta, which is the deepest sleep. When you are in the delta deep sleep, people typically, from what we understand, are not dreaming. They are just like blacked out, deep sleep, delta, so their perception of matter, right, is very limited. When you're in your beta waking state, you're awake, like the conversation we're having right now. We're awake. We're in our beta waking state. So you could consider that a whole different realm of experience. When you go into fast gamma, which is 4 times faster in harmonic resonance, you have out of body experiences. You literally interact with beings from other dimensions. You see elves, right? People that are on DMT, they see elves. People that have passed away, they see angels, right? They're literally connecting with beings from other dimensions of conscious experience that exist within time. So when it comes to the angels and the elves,
so
those seems to be harmonic, right?
Yeah. There seems to be a conflict with me or what I'm thinking though, because I'm thinking that would be the opposite of what. So how do I get in these dream states where things are so real, but they're not? I'm not at that. It's obviously at what was it? Theta? No.
Well, I think when you dream too, people the dream states go back up into beta harmonics sometimes, but they replay through the day quicker. There's a lot of different harmonics associated with, and I can't tell you that I know the answer, right? I could guess and guess and guess. But what I would assume is that you're just resonating better at that harmonic. That could just be more natural to you. I mean, that's my best answer on that. I really can't say much. I'll tell you when I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
I think I don't know. That's my quest to understand, because I can't explain how, it's just unexplained. I can't explain what I go through basically on a nightly basis. But anyway, enough about me.
I mean, it's a different layer of reality.
Yeah. And it's it's really strange. It's strange. Anyway, I find my mind going down a rabbit hole, so I have to be careful. I had another question for you. Let me look at my notes right quick. Let's see. And I know I had some good questions. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Okay, tell me about your Ufo experience. What your musical background? I know you're a great piano player. Any other instruments, or at what age did you start playing?
Well, you could say, parents really, really wanted me to be a Russian classical pianist player kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I started doing lessons when I was about 5 to about the age of 10. But then it was like doing all the lessons, doing all the practice really takes the joy out of piano. So I completely quit. I was like, I don't like piano. I don't want to ever do it again.
And see, that happened to Alex too. We just, it's just like parents are like, you got to do this, you got to do that. You have to be entered into these competitions, and
exactly.
It's that video I sent you. Was that one of his?
I think it might have been a recital.
A recital, yeah.
Right.
But
so I just started playing again though when I saw a friend really enjoyed it. I was 16 at the time, and I saw a friend playing the piano. I was like, man, I used to be pretty good at the piano, and that looks cool. I I like playing piano. So I started teaching myself again at the age of 16. And then in college, I took one piano course. But other than that, I've just been teaching myself, just writing tunes that come to mind.
Any other instruments?
Guitar a little bit.
Guitar.
No,
Yeah.
Piano is my
other son Barrett is a great drummer and guitarist, and so that's one thing I involved my kids in early was music. Good.
Music is a different dimension, right? And so that's something that when it comes to being able to see through time, right? In quotes, when you think about a song, it doesn't exist as like a photo. It doesn't exist as a structure you just look at, right? A song is an experience in time. It's a whole 3.5-minute flow. So that's a good way to see a solid structure in time is a song, right? Songs can be seen as solid structures.
And it's sound, so it has its own effect.
Right. Yeah.
What are those plaques and things on the wall behind you? I'm always nosy. I don't know if you noticed this. I asked Lou about his flag because I thought it was a family member's flag.
I have a little alien up there, the little green guy.
What are those plaques? I see some plaques behind you on the wall.
So I got their astrophysics degree from the University of Colorado.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I was awarded finalist for Innovation of the Year by Tampa Bay Business Journal for my work with the skateboards that I do.
We didn't talk about that, did we?
No, that's basically why everything we just talked about almost is why I do the whole skateboard mission thing. Actually, it's kind of funny. I mean, to help bring the innovation, education, sustainability, peace of mind. It's almost like Bob Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, right? Like, we need to be free as a society. But
and we need these distractions. I don't mean to say that's a distraction.
Right.
I mean, I find myself needing distractions from things like from this, right? Because I'm thinking, because it's very, if I don't figure out a way to not become focused on like work, like I've got like 10 sets of drawings I have to get out, right? And I can sit and think about this all day, So I have to do things like I have this. The light, rain, and thunder video I listen to when I'm drawing to kind of to enter some white noise or whatever, so that I don't start thinking about things.
Right.
There's a lady, Deborah Strayer, on the YouTube side. She says, "Hello from Chattanooga." Well, that's where I am, Deborah. Hello. You're in Florida. I'm not going to ask you to tell me where you live, but you're in Florida, though, right?
Yes, sir.
And how did you end up at did you say University of Colorado?
Yeah, I did my undergraduate studies out there, University of Colorado in Boulder.
That's cool. Did you go to school in Florida at all?
University of South Florida for the master's program. And so that's when I was a student skating from class to class, and my professor liked my skateboard. He's like, you should patent that thing. And that's when I started doing all the work with my skateboard and then turned him into a cartoon character. So that's this little guy.
Did you patent it?
These are, sorry, say that again?
You ended up getting a patent for it?
Yeah, I got a patent on general utility patent. So a skateboard with built-in storage in combination.
So it's like an improvement on another patent or whatever. Is that what the utility patents are?
Utility patent is the big patent, right? And then you get design patents that fall underneath it. So it's a general utility patent. So this is for skateboards with built-in storage.
That's pretty cool. I remember when I was a teenager, I wanted to, we had everybody in the neighborhood. I lived at this little turnaround, this little cul-de-sac. Everybody had a skateboard, and I wanted to be able to ride, but my body just wasn't built to ride.
Right.
I kept falling on the pavement, or the asphalt on our turnaround was too lumpy, but it was always little gravels or something.
I wasn't really allowed to. I mean, my dad broke his ankle going. We got a skateboard, and this is when I was living in Oklahoma, and in our driveway was a big hill. So my dad gets on the skateboard, goes down the hill, and breaks his ankle like the first day. And so I was never allowed to ride skateboards as a kid. But But when I went to college, someone stole my bicycle, and my roommate had a skateboard, and he said, "Take this to class," kind of jokingly. So I was like, "Okay, sure, why not?" And that's when I really started skating. Was like the first day of college almost. Yeah.
People, you need to check out Alexei's video on the skateboard. It's awesome. Of course, I would I would have a hard time putting all my stuff in there, but you need a motorized version. You need a battery powered version.
There is an electric version.
Oh, there is.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We have so at this point now I have an electric model as well. Like it's ready to take over the world. Yeah, no, I've been working on it almost secretly for like 9 years. It's pretty much ready. Yeah.
I was trying to get people in the audience to. Unfortunately, my videos are viewed. I only have about 75,000 subscribers. For some reason, most of my content is viewed by other than people who are subscribed. I don't get that, but that's what the analytics say.
My views, my numbers go down. It's like it'll go up to 300, and then it goes down to 240, and then it goes up to 320, and then it goes back down. So I don't know if what that's about.
Well, I know that YouTube removes like inactive subs. If they hadn't done that, I would probably already have my golden. What is it? The 100,000.
Right.
Every time I get close, they delete the inactive people. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
But yeah, I mean, as far as everything we've talked about, I think that pretty much covers a lot of what Lou talks about. I guess one we could go over just real quick if you wanted to, just like the evolution of the human senses. Unless you think it's enough for today, but
well, I would like to have you back sometime because I feel like work got in the way and I wasn't as prepared as I wanted to be, and because I had like 20 questions for Lou, but for some reason I didn't have But I think. Well, go ahead. I mean, I don't have any time constraints, so if you want to talk about that, the evolution of the human senses.
Yeah, well, I mean, so basically, the crystal of time kind of goes through it in the simplest terms, and you could just think of it as we'll do a very, very, very quick walkthrough, right? So, like in 2 minutes, we'll.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
If we didn't have any senses, right? Imagine you're a stone. What would you think reality would be? You wouldn't think it would exist, right?
Right.
So then, as a single-celled organism, what's the most primitive sense you get?
Touch.
Touch. Right? So wall or no wall.
Or maybe heat or temperature. Okay, that goes back to touch, I guess.
Right. So it's all touch related though. But I like how you said touch. I mean, that goes perfectly with what I ended up saying it was, or going with. But it's basically wall or no wall, right? There's either something next to you or there isn't. So and then the next sense that we talk about would be that of taste or smell.
Yeah.
So then basically you have wall, no wall, taste good, taste bad, right? And so then the next sense we would say we get sound. So now we have wall, no wall, taste good, taste bad, and then sound. You could say you have an awakening. There's Doppler shifts, right? So you could hear objects traveling, like a train going by you or a car would be like, You get direction, you get motion. With sound, you get this awakening of a three-dimensional world almost. And at that point, this is the point that I'm trying to make. At that point in time, a conscious being with the most advanced sense of sound as their waking state, they would think that the speed of reality was related to sound. That would be the fastest source of information exchange for that level of consciousness.
Right, because they wouldn't have a perception of light.
They wouldn't know that light exists.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the next sense that we gain is human, right? As human is light. And we say that the speed of light, so that gives us our sense of the universe. Now we can see to the edge of the universe. But to say that that is everything, just means you really don't understand evolution, right? Like that just doesn't show, so to say the speed of light is a barrier and to say that the perceivable universe is everything would be to not understand the evolution process.
So, what's coming next? What's next?
That's
in
why I say that
evolution?
the next sense would be. I say right now our most advanced sense is that of synchronization. So the fact that you and I were able to link up and talk for almost 2 hours now, no problem, right? That's a pretty advanced sense of
Has it been that
synchronicity.
long? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. I mean, I love this.
Yeah, yeah.
But then what I say it's so right now our most heightened conscious state is the fast gamma wave, which is 80 hertz. As our experience drifts inward, we gain higher and higher densities of conscious experience. So I would say that the next sense or wave that we gain would be a conscious experience related to 160 hertz.
Do you
What I
think
call the Aliverse.
that's interesting? Because see, you just reminded me of one of the questions I had for you. What do you think? There seems to be. So I'm 58, right? And I have gone through all of these interesting waves of UFOs. Oh, okay, we have to study it. Oh, 10 years ago, about UFOs. Oh, we have to study it. Okay.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
UFOs. We have to study it.
Not
And see,
ready yet.
each time the government or whoever says we don't know what it is, we have to study it. And all the time I'm thinking, you know what it is, sucker.
I
You're just
think
not
they
telling
know.
me.
I think there's some groups and some people have a lot more data and a lot more files to have a better explanation. But
But
whether or not,
my question is related to that evolution. The idea. Do you think we're at some point? I know, I think it has to do with certain humans are going to be, my brain is in tune with certain, I at some point, and this is one thing I taught my kids, you have to understand, you have to be aware of your own intellectual abilities, right?
right?
I don't have the same intellectual abilities that you do or my son does. And I wonder at what point will we cross over and that, like, in other words, there'll be like a filter effect where some will cross over and have the ability and the others will just be filtered out.
I mean, that's almost like
Yeah.
something that seems to be happening right now, and that
Yeah.
I am not one to go into like too much like prophecies. I grew up very scientific background, so to do that, I know
Oh,
some
no, I'm
people.
talking about a prediction based on math. I'm not
Well,
talking
I
about,
mean, that's where they say like the age
you
of
know,
Aquarius is coming around the corner. The year 2029, it's the awakening of a new vibration. Basically, you could say there's a galactic alignment, and as this body, so you know how we talked about the orbit of the greater sun, like our
yeah,
universe orbits a greater sun. You could
right.
say as we orbit that greater sun, there's planets and other bodies that are on the other side of it, and they all send out their own energies, right? So they're like radio signals that send out signals. And as our universe orbits around, we get put into paths of other signals, right? So the age of the Aquarius essentially is being put into the path of another signal, a denser harmonic of experience. And so that's where humans are very, very advanced as far as like very advanced, but not advanced. So most animals, when they're born, they already have they can go hunt right away, but a baby has to develop. And during those first couple of years, the human baby is adapting to the environment and life that of the now, right? So humans can do all kinds of different things, and they're very adaptable, and they learn their first experiences by the age of 3 or 4. And so you could say in the first 3 or 4 years of age, consciousness will be learning to tune waking reality with whatever field of flow of space-time you're in. So people that are born today are more tuned to today, right? People that are born in the future will be more tuned to the future. And so as we drift towards those thicker dimensions of experience, people will naturally be able to, kids will have an easier time naturally tuning to those thicker realities. And I forget who and where exactly it is, but they have these kids now and they can read books with, through their blindfolds. There's a lot more psychic research going on that's becoming more well known. Yeah.
Well, and see,
Yeah.
I don't keep up. You can tell I didn't know about 2029, so I don't keep up with the, I'm more interested in science than I am.
Well, it's also related to
But what
the
I
Great
think
Reset.
there may be something scientific related to that period. In other words, I wonder because I know the point I was trying to make earlier about going through these cycles of resetting, where people there's an awareness and then we get, blah, blah, blah. This time, the awareness cycles as at the point we're aware seems to be getting bigger.
Yeah, it seems like, personally, it seems like it's related to the whole age of the fish, like the Pisces, moving towards the age of the Aquarius, right? So the cycles of trains of thoughts, right? So Jesus, basically, you could say, brought in the age of the fish, the age of the Pisces, and now we're moving towards the age of Aquarius, which is what I call the liquid light state universe.
Is there are these ages on a certain frequency themselves? Are there, as far as
I forget exactly, but they're all related. This is where our Western knowledge is so limited compared to.
When I say frequency, I just mean as space between occurrences. I don't mean,
of course, no, exactly, and that's what I was getting at too. Is like, and that's where in India and places where all this stuff is more talked about and part of their religion, they say that these cycles happen every 2,029 years, or around that time.
That's what I was trying.
They have names for them too, like Kali Yuga. I don't know the names, so I don't even want to start.
Do you think that's what I'm kind of getting at? Do you think that now that it seems like this cycle that I see it's going through, where it seems more people like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, if you had said Congress, we need a committee or a whole department or a whole office in Congress to study this, it would have been that's a waste of tax dollars. But now everybody's so excited about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it seems like this time it's almost like somebody knows something that we need to be preparing people for. That's the sense that I get. The sense that I get is that this time it's in the past we were thinking about getting ready for something, but now it's D-Day. It's go time.
I think it has a lot to do with that quantum understanding where our physics is at now, where we can actually play with the quantum nature of reality, right? And so we're seeing that matter really is just peaks of waves in an ocean. So I think, my personal opinion, it has to do with the coming of the age of Aquarius.
Well, that gives me something to study then.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of funny. People ask me, why am I doing these interviews? It's for me. It's not for anybody else.
Well, and I think
for me.
Yeah.
What's that? What? I'm sorry. What did you say?
Oh, I was saying the more I get to talk about it too, the better. I mean, this is basically what I've been trying to. I've had an urge to present this information since the age of 10, you could say, when it came to like explaining, telekinesis, clairvoyance, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm going to tell Lewis, he's a different Lewis. I think that's why we started saying Lou and Lewis, or I did, because Lewis Jimenez, it's Jimenez. Anyway, he has the unidentified. Oh, now he's going to be mad because. Anyway, I'm going to say it's the. I just saw a comment it has to do. The reason it's weird to me is because it has to do with celebrities, and I don't quite get that. And so every time I try to think of his channel name, I can't remember it because it's not related to. Well, it is related, but I'm gonna look it up right now just so that I can correct myself. And it's the unidentified. And I'm really embarrassing myself because I should know this. Unidentified.
I was doing construction earlier. I'm pretty sore myself today.
Anyway, I'll send you a link, and I'm gonna see if he'll watch this really long interview and get on his show, because I think they have a couple of guys. There's a guy named Rather and another fella who are very more scientific focused than I am, and would have probably better questions for you, and the conversation would probably flow better.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I'd like to really get someone to look a lot more closely at what I talk about, because I know there's going to be a lot of like head scratching, like wait, what do you wait? So universe is being stretched into existence as opposed to the universe, perception being stretched into
instead of it being stretched out of existence. Because
right.
I tend to think of the expansion of the universe, as entropy taking its toll on, right? Because the more things spread out, the more heat, just it seems like a cooling of the universe, right?
Right, but that could all be an artifact of a Doppler effect related to light speed acceleration, right? And so what is that smooth cosmic microwave background? It's more of the edge of stretched perception as opposed to the edge of like a physical universe.
And we tend to think of the universe, the expansion of it, being part of its demise, not being part of creation.
Right, and so
that's the way I think. That's my limited thinking.
Yeah, so there's the big kicker for for this podcast, is that we accelerate around the center of time at the speed of light, not that the universe is expanding at the speed of light, right? And if you look at that fifth dimensional view, you could say that our entire experience is in like a very flat ring. I'm not saying the Earth is flat; it's very 4D in our experience, or very 3D. But in this fifth dimensional view, our entire experience is very flattened. And so you can make magic squares that can therefore guide the fluid of time, like interdimensional technologies. Maybe way easier. We might be way closer to the stars than we think. And, matter below you is literally that energy being crunched, and the stars above you is that energy being stretched. And that's all due to a perception of acceleration towards center at light speed. But reality in itself is the state of light half crunched and matter half stretched. That would be the fluid of time. So that's my argument. Let's see where it goes.
I don't have an argument with that argument.
No, I mean like the scientific.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Alexei. I know it's been like you said, almost 2 hours.
No, it's good.
But I hope you'll come back sometime, because I want to. Would you be interested in joining like a small panel of people who I think would be kind of cool to hear them have? Like, I would love to sit in a room and hear a couple of you talk. See, so I'm being selfish, right? I want to get you together and hear what you have to say to each other.
No, that sounds great. I'd love to help out. If I, as much as I can help out, I can. If you guys want me there, I'll be there.
And if that's my only purpose in life, then that's what I'll do. So I'm supposed to get you with somebody.
Cool.
I feel like I'm supposed to hook you up with somebody. So that's what I want to do. Because I think your channel really, I still don't.
I don't know.
It's being blocked by some.
Yeah, I don't know if shadow ban is a thing or not, but
Well, but there's no content on there that you would think. I mean, it's all excellent.
I used to have a lot of skateboard stuff that was more related to freedom.
Wow, that's terrible.
No, like more related to oneness. We're all the same.
Yeah.
Like what we were talking about earlier, the whole politics thing is just so dumb. Like
it is dumb.
We're all human, guys. We're all
coming from a person who used to be just way too interested in politics, I've completely abandoned.
Well, a lot of it's a show too, right? Because people just do what they're paid to do. So I mean,
yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Alexei. I'll have to say goodbye somehow. I don't want to, but I'm going to.
I hear you. I should go. I have to go to work tomorrow. You have to work tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it. And I'll be in contact with you. Okay.
Yes, sir. Have a great night. All right.
All right. You too. Thanks.
That's it.
Bye. Okay, that was awesome. And I appreciate everybody. If you made it this far, you're a wise person.